Hi, I'm Tere Tucker, and I'm the missions director here at Palm Valley Church. So missions here is local missions. We do community outreach. We also do regional trips, and we do global trips. So I'm here to tell you how we do them. They may or may not fit with what your direction is in your missions, or they may be helpful in some area. And then afterwards, I'd like to hear from maybe some of you is how you do it and how you do missions in there, because we're all here to learn from each other today, okay? So one thing I am going to use is we're very integrated into the P.E.A.C.E Plan, and so I'm not going to go through the whole P.E.A.C.E Plan from like beginning to end because that takes days, but I'm just going to tell you how we do the P.E.A.C.E Plan here in our local missions, in our regional mission trips, and also in our global trips. So, and might be some interaction. I'm going to ask questions, so you can raise your hand and answer if you'd like to. So before we get started, how many of you are involved in missions in your church? Oh, good. Okay, great. Small church, large church. So let's do small church, like say under 400. 500, okay. And over 500? Before 5. Okay, good. I was wondering where you were cutting off at, so I couldn't remember. Yeah. Okay. Yesterday, Pastor Ryan talked about the 5 purposes of the church. Let me see if I can. I'm not used to using a slideshow in my thing, so give me just a few minutes. Okay. First of all, how do we achieve the mission? It's through the local church. He started off with the Great Commandments and the Great Commission, and from that he got these 5 reasons, and those are the 5 purposes for missions. So here's what he went over yesterday, and I'm going to talk to you about how we incorporate those into missions. So with worship, all our missions, everything we do in missions is a glory to God. So we're out there, we're being God's feet and hands. And so when we do that, that's worshiping Him, that's glorifying Him, because we can't do anything without Him, and that's the reason we all exist. And missions exist to bring people to Christ. So that's how we do worship. In ministry, missions is loving your neighbor and helping them and serving them. In evangelism, people that go on mission trips sometimes get to evangelize themselves. But the whole idea of a mission trip is to bring Christ to others in your community, to others regionally, or to others globally. And what I mean by regionally, let me maybe define that a little bit, is locally is our community here within, maybe 10 miles around us. Regionally is when we go into other areas to help other churches in the United States. Okay? Anything outside of the United States we consider global. So when we go into Mexico, that's a global trip. When we go to Africa, that's a really global trip. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. Fellowship is when you spend 24 hours a day, 3 to 14 days with people. You're in fellowship. You learn about their habits, you talk to them, you share, and so you create bonds that will last you for a lifetime. One of my best friends here at Palm Valley Church is Becky Green. She's the children's pastor, and she and I met at a local mission function. We went out to lunch afterwards, and we have remained very good friends all through these years. There's Becky right there. I just was telling how you create fellowship and friends through missions. So, and then your spiritual growth and discipleship. I don't know anyone who has either served locally or regionally or globally who has not grown, even if it's a little or a large amount, in missions. You have experiences that you will never experience just coming to church on Sunday. You have experiences that you won't experience in small groups. Those are all important, but you really get a lot of spiritual growth when you go on a mission trip, see how others live, and out there and share with them what you know, and just love on them and help them do what they need to do. So Pastor Ryan also talked yesterday about the process and the plan, where we go from community to the crowd to the congregation. What we do in missions, we go locally, we go out in our community. In regional, we go to regional churches and we help them. So we go out in their community to help be their hands and feet. And then in Africa, we do the same thing, and it's to go out into the communities and bring people to the crowd, and then from the crowd, they can belong to the church, and the churches kind of take over there. So we do these first two steps in missions. So in missions, we start in the community. Excuse me. And how we do missions here in Palm Valley Church is what I want to talk to you about today. And like I said, some of it will maybe help you, some of it won't. So the last couple of years, we changed our mission direction. We used to go and these are all good mission trips. There's nothing wrong, but we used to go like maybe to Mexico and help build houses, or we'd go into different places and help with things. What we decided, our lead team decided, is that missions for Palm Valley Church was going to actually be going and helping the P.E.A.C.E Plan. And so with that, the P of the P.E.A.C.E Plan is to either plant or partner with churches. We're not planting churches. When Pastor Ryan decided we were going to partner with churches. And so that's what we've done. Locally, we've partnered with churches in some of our community events. We talk to some of the other smaller churches in the community and have them come partner with us, so we're all serving the community together. When we do regional trips like Bisbee, we go down to Bisbee. We are their hands and feet for them. They need to, when the first time we went with them was last year, they have maybe 40 people that come to church regularly. When you have 40 people coming to church, you don't have enough people to go canvas, to put on a carnival, to maybe make flyers, to paint the classrooms that need to be painted. So what we do is we partnered with them. Last year was our first partner trip, which was kind of fun. And we went down there and we helped them paint some rooms. We went out and canvassed their community with flyers and invited them to a carnival. The people that went down on our mission trip, sort of partnered with them, and we ran the events at the carnival while they were able to go into the community, to the people that came, and talk to them and invite them to church and build those relationships down there. When we go to Africa, I'll get to that a little bit later, it's a whole different thing, but we're actually partnering with a lot of churches there in Africa to help bring the gospel to the whole country of Cote d'Ivoire. So with that being said, let's get that one. When we talk about the P.E.A.C.E Plan, the P is for planting or partnering with churches. Okay? And the P is also to help with spiritual emptiness. There's 5 global giants in the P.E.A.C.E Plan, and the first one would be spiritual emptiness. Well, to combat spiritual emptiness, you either plant churches or partner with churches to bring the gospel to as many areas that you can. E is equip servant leaders. And the reason we do that is because self-serving leaderships are in governments, they're in cities, they're in towns, and they're rampant. So if we can create Christians and help churches build up believers, they can go into politics, they can go into government, and we can help with that. To assist the poor is A, and that is to combat poverty, which is another global giant. Poverty is rampant in a lot of countries. It's even here a lot in Arizona. We do serve areas like this area here that we are in. The 5 schools that are in our community here are Title I schools, and that means that 95% of the kids that go to those schools are under poverty level. Their family's under poverty level. So there's a lot of need here just in our own community to help the poor. It's also spiritual poverty also, because they're not looking to God, they're not going into a church, so if we can build relationships with them, we can bring them into our crowd. Then C is to care for the sick. There's a lot of disease in the world, and when we go into different areas, we also go to San Carlos. There's a reservation down there, and we work with the Arizona Ministry Association, and we go in there, and there is some diseases there, so we take medicine down there to help them, or we take educational things. We go down and take carnivals down to play with the kids. We take backpacks and clothes and things to help them down there. And the E is for illiteracy, to educate our youth. And that we do by having them on mission trips, teaching them what it is like to love your neighbor, teaching them what it's like to care for others, teaching them that God is the way to should be the leader of your life and lead you and guide you, and that by having a grounded upbringing in Christianity and in Jesus, then they know how to also love and educate others. So that's what we're going to kind of go over today. I'm going to incorporate these into how we see these and how we actually really do them in Palm Valley Church. So the first one is the global giant of spiritual emptiness. What we do is we reconcile. P is partnering with churches for reconciliation, which fights spiritual emptiness. We take groups of people into communities, and the first thing we need to do, like in Bisbee, the first thing that we wanted to do was they need people in their seats. So again, we canvassed and we help them find people. We asking, there's another church that came yesterday. He's asked us to partner with them, and it's down south of here, and we're going to go down there, and they need help painting, they need help building a building, and they need help also canvassing the areas and helping them bring people in, as they've only got like 20 people to start. Church plants are hard, so we are here to help and assist wherever we can to create more of a community for the churches. In this process, I'm going to divert a little bit here. So in this process of planting churches or partnering with churches, I'll come back to that. Never mind. This helps the community get them into the crowd. So equipping leaders, we can help equip leaders in the church. We go down and we equip them on how to have greeters. We equip them on how to hold small groups, kind of like what we do here in this last couple of days is we're trying to equip leaders to build their churches up to become healthy churches. So we really want to help healthy churches. Then the E is to, that was E, equip leaders. Sorry, I'm not used to writing a PowerPoint, so please bear with me. I'm not used to speaking either very much. This is kind of new for me also. So the extreme poverty, assist the poor. Extreme poverty is more than half the world lives on less than a few dollars a day. That's hard for us to understand here in America and most of our lifestyles because we have a lot. I mean, when we go into a grocery store, we have an entire aisle of a choice of cereals. You don't have that in a lot of countries. You maybe have, like when we went to Africa one time, we went into the grocery store and there was a half of an aisle that was maybe from here to that table there of choices of cereals. And you come back to the United States and it really does make you, you're humbled, you are, you feel like you have too much. And so your first reaction is you want to come home and go through your entire house and be a minimalist, which is kind of unrealistic too, but that's the first thought that you normally have. We go on mission trips we use the Arizona, like I said, was talking about the Arizona Reservation Ministries and the San Carlos trips. Again, we can take things down there and help with the needy down there with backpacks and clothing. The C is caring for the sick. We don't do a lot of that here in the area here, but and we don't do a lot of that even regionally. But we do a lot of that when we go to Africa. When we take our Africa missionary trips, they ask us to bring over more of education on how to take care of scratches, how to take temperatures, how to take blood pressure, how to just treat a common cold, how to, if somebody breaks their arm, what you should do, get them to someplace that can set it, because we don't set it because we're not medical people, but we can go down and train the others. And what they do here is we train the churches, members of the people in the congregation on these things. We also help them and equip them on how to educate their children, because there's a big poverty versus people who have money difference. And what they have is that people who have money can afford to send their children to preschool. And so when they hit kindergarten, they're ready to go. The people that don't have money cannot afford a preschool. So when their children hit kindergarten, they're already almost 2 years behind an average fifth grader. So we have gone into the churches and trained the people, ladies and men of the congregation, on how to teach them their language. This is all in their language. Teach them how to just fellowship with each other, how to make friends. And so we teach the members how to train their own children, and they hold preschools in their churches, so this way their congregation and the people that don't have money have a way of, when they hit the schools, their children are at the same level as the kids with private schools, or at least they're not 2 years behind. So it's really been a big help to that. The churches do this, and this brings in people from the community that are not Christians, but it helps them build relationships. It helps them just get to know them, and then that way they build a relationship with them that gives them the okay to talk to them about Christ, rather than just going and talking to somebody in a park, which is great for some people, and I love that. I can't do that, but I know there's a lot of people that can. I have a friend, she stands in the grocery store, and she'll turn around, she'll look at the person behind her almost every time and say, "So, do you know Jesus?" And while they're standing in line, she gives the gospel. Most of us probably don't do that. But so this brings, you have to build relationships. So going on mission trips helps us help them to build relationships in these countries. Let's see. Whoops. And to educate the next generation is teaching and educating the youth, and to build lasting relationships and to learn that serving in missions locally and regionally and globally. The way we do this at Palm Valley Church is we hold a 5-week class. I keep forgetting to change my, there we go. We have a 5-week class, and we equip all of our mission people to go on a trip. We train them in building relationships. Let me back up a second. In this 5-week class, the ideal would be for us is that people serve locally on a local mission or a local outreach event first. They get introduced to how to build relationships. They get introduced on how to give the gospel. A lot of people, this gives them an opportunity to do that just locally with friends. Have them serve, it gives them their time. It shows them how to follow rules. It shows them how to leave things better. It shows them how to watch what they say when you're out in the community and things that you can say and don't say. So we like people to start locally. Then the next step would be to go on a regional trip, which is, like I said, here in the United States somewhere. The customs aren't so different. You don't make as many mistakes with maybe not looking somebody straight in the eye. Or in Africa, somebody offers you water, you take it because it's an offense to them if you don't. And so you end up with a lot of half we've drank water bottles. Cheryl's laughing because we've been on these trips. But you take the water. So there's different little customs in everywhere we go. So we try to train what those customs are when we go. And then from there you can go to the global trips, where we actually train specifically, let alone outside the class, on different customs, what the different dialects, the different who's who. Their pastors are treated like with royalty, and so you go and you're seated up in the front. People all want to talk to you. They are very respectful. I mean, it's just a whole different culture, and it's kind of a shock if you haven't been told this before you go. So we try to equip our people that are going on mission trips as much as we can. The other reason we have mission classes that they're required to attend is it builds teamwork among themselves. If you take a group of people from ages 18 to 80 on a mission trip, and they're spending 3 days to 14 days together, you want them to be able to gel together. And by meeting every week for a couple of hours and then having a couple of functions in between that where they can relax and get to know each other, makes the trip so much better. And we've had instances where we've done that, and let's say it's a trip of 12 or 15 people, and 2 of them have not come to class, have not gotten to know everybody. it causes distension or tension in the trip itself. And when you're locally, and that happens in local thing, you can deal with that. When you're pretty close to Arizona and you know it's only going to be a couple of days, but when you're overseas and that happens, that makes for a very long trip and not a good trip, because all trips are good, but it does give you a lot of issues that you wouldn't normally have to deal with. And we've had those kinds of trips, and so we've placed some very strict rules about when we go overseas to our global trips. And then there's security issues too that we have to teach when we're traveling. Especially nowadays, it seems like you can't say you're Christian. You can't say that you're going into a country because you're going to go preach the gospel. You don't wear trip shirts together so everybody knows, oh, hey, look, they're from Palm Valley Church, or they're from Compass Church, or whatever. You just don't advertise that in a lot of airports. So there's a lot of things that we have to train before that. So that's why the classes. We find that the classes are a big help. And when we go, even after we leave there, people say, you guys are different. You all got along. You all kind of knew what you were doing. You all just did whatever anybody asked you to do. And we just smile and say, thank you, but we find out that's why. That's one of the reasons why. So one of the last things is that when we also talk about helping without hurting. And that's a book, and I don't have the author's name written down, but anyway, it's helping without hurting. And what we do there is, the reason we've gone to the P.E.A.C.E Plan and helping and promoting other churches is because when you do that, you find a man of peace or a woman of peace, a person of peace. And that person of peace is somebody who has lived in the community, who knows the community, maybe grew up in the community. They have influence in the community. They're respected in the community. And sometimes it's a pastor of a church. If it's locally, it's usually the pastor of the church. I'm going to use Alberto. He's not here. I was going to ask him to share, but since he didn't come to this class, he and his wife grew up in Bisbee. They know a lot of people in Bisbee because it's not that big. And so they have influence down there where we can go out and talk to their partners, their community. They know the people at the fire department. They know the people at the police department, where we can get set up help and have people, maybe somebody donate turkeys, or somebody donate toys for Christmas, or somebody donate candy for Halloween. And when you have those connections, then they tell us what they need because they know the community. So Alberto, we met before we went down there, and he said, this is what we need you to come down and do. Now, we would maybe have liked to have gone down and, let's say, clean their whole church up and plant their whole garden outside or something. But that's not what they needed. They needed somebody to come down and canvas. They needed somebody to come down and paint. And they needed somebody to come down and help them get some things done. That's regional. In Africa, we have a person of peace his name is Pastor Mark Zandal. And he is very influential. He is over a lot of churches. He's a couple hundred churches he's over. And because of that, he knows a lot of the churches over there are kind of based where you have first a pastor here, and then he's pastor over a couple hundred, and then they're pastor over thousands. And so it's kind of like pyramids. He knew all of the top people, so he put together a commission that when we go over there, it is reached, and Pastor Ryan teaches to thousands and thousands of different pastors and churches. So the P.E.A.C.E Plan is being taught over there, and Healthy Church is being taught over there, and it goes out carried to the villages. And so that's why it's important to have a person of peace. When we first started going over, we met with Mark, and it was like, okay, what do you need us to come do? When he said, we don't need you to build us buildings. We can do that. What we need you to do is come over and teach us, and that's why we go and we teach the members of the church. We need somebody to tell us how to take care of our basic medical needs, because they don't have a lot of doctors in places where people that live out in the villages can go. So that's what we went and did, and that's what we've continued doing for 9 years almost now. And it's been growing, and we've built very good relationships over there. So the person of peace can tell you exactly what's needed, either for their church, their community, for their area, or for their country that they're in. And a long time ago, I went to church, and they had a huge missions convention. And I remember I was just getting started into missions, and it was, they were at that time, I think they were promoting CHE, C-H-E. And so, and it was a pendulum swing from missionaries going and building schools that sat empty or building different things to, okay, what do you need? And that's kind of where the whole piece started. What do you need? Well, we need water. You know, the building can sit there empty, we don't care, but what we need is water. And so then missionaries started doing what was needed in different areas. And then it has gone to that, to finding a person of peace. That way, when you're not there anymore, it goes on. If you have this person of peace, it continues on. They continue doing what they're doing, and they can carry on without you being there. Because when we leave as missionaries, it shouldn't leave a hole. It shouldn't leave a void in what we're doing. And so that's why Palm Valley has adopted that plan. So, let's see. I got to tell you these, because these are just what I think make us a great team when we go, is there's 3 rules that are not part of the P.E.A.C.E Plan, but they are part of Palm Valley's rules, is that you are positive. There's no complaining, there's a positive attitude, there's no negativity, and if you have it, you talk to your leader, you don't spread it through the group. You be flexible, you do whatever you ask. God may take us into places that we didn't even know we were going, but you still are flexible, and you put a smile on your face, and you jump on the bandwagon and you go. And you leave things better. We always leave things better than we can find them. You don't leave a mess. You don't leave things for everybody else to pick up. You know, you break something, you fix it. I mean, it's just all common sense rules, but those are our 3 rules that we embed in people. And if you ask anybody that's ever been on a mission trip, they should be able to recite those rules. So, and I'd like to just kind of bring it back to where Pastor Amy kind of went yesterday with her walking across the stage last night, or yesterday afternoon. You start with the come and see. And so our come and see is local missions. Get involved in a local mission. Get involved. We have a local mission. We do Toys and More, which is a huge Christmas event that we do here at Palm Valley Church. It started where we just kind of went to the schools, because we have a great relationship with our school district, so we're allowed to go into the schools. We're also allowed to preach the gospel in the schools, which is kind of really rare, because the superintendent here is a Christian, and we became friends with her. We know all the principals in the schools. So what we do is we take names of families down that are in need, their wants list. We work with the Salvation Army. We work with our local food bank here. And this year we actually had 5 other churches involved in helping us do this. And we served 1,500 families and over 3,000 children with toys and clothes for gifts and food, a Christmas box so they can make Christmas dinner, and then a fresh pantry, produce also. So it was really cool. And then you try to give them an experience, like a Christmas experience when you're passing all this out. So some churches, and what we've done in the past is, before COVID, we would have walk-ups. Since COVID, we had drive-thrus, and we found we can really serve a lot more by having a drive-through. So this year, some churches, they have events out in the parking lot, which is what we used to have. This year, we actually had lights in our parking lot, and they drove through like a light show, which is kind of fun to put on and do too. So that was cool. We also do a Backpacks and More drive, where we supply backpacks and 2 uniforms, so that's 2 pairs of shorts, 2 tops, and a pair of shoes and socks for some of the kids in the school area that need them. And so that's other things that you can do. We do things like serve our city. So there's so many things you can do locally to get your congregation out in the community, to meet the community, to build those relationships, to earn the right to give them, to share the gospel with them. So that's the kind of the come and see. That's our come and see portion of this. And then you move to the come and follow, which is regional trips. Okay, now that you've done this, try and step out a little bit more outside your box, your comfort zone, and go on a regional trip where you're going to be spending the night on floors in churches with other people. And you're not going to shower for 3 days, or you're not going to do this, but God's calling you to share and feed his poor and take care of these people. So we do this. We go out and that's the come and follow. Then you go to the come and die. Hopefully you don't die on the mission trip, but you do come and you surrender and you commit. When you're going out of the country for 2 weeks, you're committed. You're committed to whatever happens. You're leaving your family. You're leaving your job for 2 weeks. I mean, you're leaving everything that you know that's comfort to you, and you're going across the ocean somewhere. We go to Cote d'Ivoire. I have some friends that are going to Ecuador. We have a missionary that's actually in Nicaragua. We have another missionary couple in Nigeria. So we have them all over, but when you do that, you are committed to follow Jesus, and you don't have a choice, because when you're in a situation and they tell you to move, they're telling you to move for a reason, or they're telling you, get on the bus, let's go. They're telling you for a reason, and we had that in the last time for Africa. It was like we were out talking to the locals, and it was like, get on the bus. You move. You don't ask questions. And then you really are putting your life in Christ's hands. And it's just amazing the growth that happens when you're totally 100% dependent on Christ out of your comfort zone. So that's pretty much all I had. But I would like to ask, since we are actually here to learn from each other, does anybody else have any experiences or any missions the way they do it differently? Yes, one.
Questions too, just as
Yeah.
we're looking at how we're doing these things right now. First question was just about your education class. It's a 5-week class. How often do you offer that? Is it before a global mission trip? Do you offer it consistently?
No, we only offer it when we usually do missions twice a year. So we offer it 5 weeks, well, anywhere from 5 to 8 weeks before we actually leave on the trip. And that way we can roll everybody that's going on mission trips into those 2 classes. And we usually have spring trips, and then we have fall trips.
Global trips or
No, the global trips are usually, right now we only go to Africa, and that's in July. So we'll have another class that's specifically for that trip in July, or in June before we leave.
So that will start 5 to 8 weeks out of that trip?
Right, right.
So you don't necessarily need to do it for like when you do the Christmas one.
No, we do have our first night of our education class for trips is just kind of a general come and see type introduction to missions. We would love for people that serve on local missions to come to that class, but we don't stop them from serving. We don't turn away volunteers. Somebody wants to volunteer at a community event or an outreach, we let them come in. We don't turn anybody away. Yeah. Yes?
What's your how do you first announce, and how do you do it? You do a prior interest sort of meeting, or how do you know who you're going to start with? Who's this team of people? How do they start?
How do we start getting people? Or how would
Well,
we?
put it this way. You say you have a group of 16 that go to Africa.
Yes.
How did that start?
With Africa trip, we'll announce it. Well, all the trips, we announce the trips, and we say this is where we're going, and we have a little pamphlet usually we pass out that tells about each trip and what they might be doing, as kind of an overview. And then we have people register online, and those that register, they are sent an email saying, you have to come to a class, and then they come to the class, and we start doing it. And the people who lead the class are the leaders of the trips. So, like usually, I'll lead the opening class, and then our trip leaders, we have trip leaders for each trip, will lead the classes also, and that way we can start bonding with our teams.
I know we're getting into the weeds here.
Oh, that's okay.
But so,
You got plenty of time.
and the reason I'm asking is we're doing our first one.
Oh, yay.
I mean, on a church level.
Uh-huh.
White church wide. Our youth have done it. So we're doing a lot of this stuff right now. You give them the information up front, like what this is going to cost.
Yes, when they register, they know the cost. They have to have a passport if we're going out of the country. They know they have to get that. They know that they have to have all their vaccinations. We list all of that right up front in the registration, that this is what will be needed. As soon as they register, they get a list. They know they'll get a list of what to pack. They'll get a list of all of that. And
so you've done that way in advance of
yes,
5 to 8 weeks.
yes. Then we go over everything the first night to make sure that they understand that, but especially passports. I mean, if you want to go on a global trip right now, it's taking up to 6 months to get a passport. Sure.
Do you ever put a deposit down?
Yes, we do. We have the cost there. They're supposed to come in with a deposit, and then we have deadlines, like the first third's during here, the second's here, and then the final before you go. So, and if you don't have it, you just don't go. So we're very strict with that.
When you do the funding, that's the question I had about the funding part for the trip. Obviously, you and Global One, they're going to pay for their part of it, and then you also have other funding because if you're going to do something, do a project there, right? So there's going to be, hey, we're going to help with the water.
We include, when we make the cost for the trip, that includes the travel, the food, and whatever materials we have to buy that we're going to present with to do the trip. Or like with ARM, they tell us what we're going to do, and then they tell us the cost associated with that, so then we add that to the trip and divide it amongst the participants that go. And then sometimes if we have extras, like if we collect too much, then we actually, like with Bisbee, we just give them the overflow of the money, and we just give the rest to the church or the organization that we're dealing with.
You guys also do sponsorships, like somebody really has a heart wants to go, but they can't get the whole thing. So
Yeah, we do that.
Somebody wants to
Right.
sponsor that person.
Yeah, we focus on fundraising, and the reason we focus on fundraising is because that way you can go to people, family, friends, and you'd be surprised. You think, well, I'm not going to ask that person; they would never support me on this. Those are the ones that usually come through and support. And we do fundraising because if God is calling you to go on this trip, it's a really step of faith that the money will be there. He will supply the donors. He will supply the people to fund you. And you will get the money. I mean, my first trip to Africa was $3,500, and it was like, I'm not supposed to go on this. I'm not going to go on this trip, but I signed up anyway because I felt called to do it, and I ended up actually having $5,000 given to me. So the other $1,500 was donated to help pay for some people who maybe couldn't afford it. So yeah, you will get the fundraising. Palm Valley Church will pick up a small portion of that sometimes. It depends on, during COVID we didn't, but during COVID we weren't traveling a whole lot anyway. But yeah, it's, so yeah, that depends on your church if you want to have them, if you want to pay for a fourth of it or a third of it and have them. And what we typically suggest is that you at least fundraise for 1/3 of it. Then if you want to pay for a half of it, you can, but half of it should be fundraised because that lets other people partner with you and they're invested in the trip, they're invested in missions that way, and it also gives them, if they won't partner maybe funding, they can, but that gets you a lot of prayer partners, and you need prayer when you go on these trips. I don't care if it's a regional trip or a global trip, you need prayer partners. You need the prayer behind you. Oh.
I was going to say, part of the process of you doing fundraisers and getting prayer partners is that you allow people to be a part of a mission trip that maybe physically can't go. And it builds a much larger team. So when we talk about missions and people, they're either senders or they're goers. So if you're a sender, you get to be a part of that process of when you're out on the field. You can sit back and say, pray for this. Struggle for a week, or maybe this is my struggle before I go on the trip. But having that prayer partnership involves more of a congregation, and so you have a bigger crowd of people that actually can participate in missions. Then it's just a certain amount of people that can afford to go, because then you have the have and the have-nots. And
Right.
if God's calling you to do something, you want to empower that person to take that step of faith and grow their faith as they step forward in that decision. So.
Yeah. Yes.
So could you give us maybe a little outline of what you would typically do in a meeting? One of those 5 meetings.
One of the 5 meetings. The first meeting, what we do is we talk about fundraising. We talk about what you're absolutely going to need. Some people, the ARM, they have waivers that you have to sign because you're actually going on to the reservation. We don't spend the night on the reservation, but we do go out there and minister to the people out there and do events out there and then come back. So they want a waiver that everybody knows. We do allow families on those trips, not on the Africa trip, but we do allow families for Bisbee and for ARM for the San Carlos trip. But we do, kids have to go with parents. We don't allow anybody under 18 unless they're with a parent or a guardian. We've done that before, and it causes other issues, so we've kind of let that out too. And then what we do, the first trip, is we go over the P.E.A.C.E Plan, and then we talk about local missions. So that first meeting, everybody learns about local missions. They learn about what we do, why we do it, how to volunteer for it, what's kind of expected when they serve on local missions. And then there's an overview of the regional and global. The second meeting, we go over the regional trip, what is involved in a regional trip, how you need to ask. And then we also go over how to build relationships. We go over how to help without hurting. We talk about culture, and how you can go into a place. We have a really funny video that kind of shows cavemen coming in and, with big bats and things like that, and with big, clubs and shooting people. So it's kind of a funny video, but it gets the point across that they come into our world and take laptops and what is this, and throw them on the ground, and what we eat they throw out and they lay like lard on the table or something. So, but it does make the point of you have to be careful when you go into other cultures about what you're bringing in. And then we also go over, there's one other thing. Yeah, the vaccinations and all that. And then on the global trips, we go over more because we go over airplane flights and things like that too, and where we're going to be staying. I can send you we have different outlines for the different classes. I can send to you if you'd like them.
Do you do any spiritual formation or devotions or anything like that?
We do. We do that as well. We try to do a devotional before we go, like an online YouVersion devotional with your team. There's also some team building in Scripture, and we do a lot of Scripture in all of our teachings about why we do everything. But yeah. And one other thing, we do what we call coffee shops with them. I don't know if any of you are familiar with those. Coffee shops are where you sit down on a one-on-one, and you ask just a few, just kind of normal questions. But then we do ask them how their walk with the Lord, where their walk is Christ. Do they believe in Christ? Are they believers? And then we ask them, why are you, if you were asked, why are you a Christian? If we don't know them really well, we want to know that they are a believer and not just a member that's coming. So we've actually given the gospel to somebody who wanted to go on a trip, and she accepted Christ right there before she went on the trip. So we want to make sure that we're the culture that we're taking as well.
One of the things that we're trying to do is we try to get a healthy balance of peace for us local, and then as we're doing that, we want to multiply that out as we now go into other churches and work with them and partner with them, and so the one area that I had a little confusion on, for us was under the care for the sick, and I thought about us locally where we are. And when we are, we thought, okay, one of the ways that we care for the sick as a church is one, when people are sick, right?
Right.
That's an easy one.
Yeah, if you take them food or take them drive where they need to, right.
They need somebody, they can't leave their home, we go take them,
Right.
things like that. So that would fall under the P.E.A.C.E Plan rather than, because the other thing that we're also doing is we're also encouraging through our connect groups, which are our small
Right.
groups. Hey, you're doing family together, life together, right? So somebody within your group, if they're in the group,
Yes.
then those are the people that should go and help
Yes,
them, and
absolutely.
care for them and visit them. And so we look at it from two different areas. So is that a good duplication of what we're doing? Not everybody I guess not everyone is in a connect group, right?
Right.
So is
So
that the right place to put?
Like I said, it's a little bit different here because you can teach or you can equip churches on how to do that when you're partnering with them if they don't have a clue how to, where they're going or what that looks like. Oversee what we do in Africa is we actually help them build, or not build, but create what they call commissariats. Anyway, they're like little emergency centers within their church. And that way they can help and care for the sick that way. Because a lot of it, they don't even know, like washing hands. We've had gone over and taught classes on how to wash your hands, that it takes the germs off, and just the whole concept behind that. Cleaning your food, washing your food off and things like that. And we don't bring bugs, we bring like plastic little bugs, and we kind of show them that way. And so we teach them that these just really basic things that we take for granted, that we just grow up knowing, that they just don't know or do. And so that's one way of caring for the sick. If we can eliminate their basic colds, if we can eliminate some of their just what we consider minor diseases, which are major to them, then that is caring for them, and then they can help their own people do, with their own members do that, and then in their community as well.
So one of the things that we've done at our church for local peace is kind of massage a little bit. So like the P for us is partner for the gospel. That opens up a lot more doors, partnerships with the gospel-centric focus. And the C is care for the whole person. So in that becomes initiative. CR fits under that umbrella. Lay counseling fits under that. You're carrying, mental health initiatives fits under that umbrella. I think it opens up a lot more possibilities.
It's true.
The strict piece works well for the global.
Right.
It's an international focus. But some of the things that are on that list, they don't translate into America. It's like, okay, that's not my primary problem. Illiteracy is not my big issue in America. So I think if you kind of massage it, you think of the 5 elements of peace as good hooks to start ideas. That's it. Just to kind of go, how can we help children in our community? How can we help people who are suffering in our community? How can we? So I think it gives you at least a framework.
Yeah.
And I also think having the resources for those things. So, if mental health is an issue in your area, then find some mental health resources. If it's, whatever that is, giving the resources to those people, because that's part of an urban kind of peace plan, like what you're saying. You have to kind of look at it in your area, and see what can I do to help my people in this community. And so maybe it's a resource base. Maybe it's making those connections between people.
That's one thing we've done. We partner with churches, right? But then, on the other part, we partner with organizations.
Right.
Some of them might not be Christian organizations.
That's why we changed it to partner for the gospel.
Right.
Because we partner with about 25 different community organizations. So for us, it's like we're partnering because we're building bridges.
Right.
And those bridges give us an extension for the gospel. So we kind of change that language right up there.
Yeah, and a bigger.
It increases your trust in the community too, and we've actually received a lot of people that come to our church as a result of this partnership.
On a church-wide thing, we do that too. I mean, we have our care classes, which is caring for the people. We partner with a lot of our communities out here and going to a lot of the roundtables, and then you're right. I was focusing more on missions here, but with the church-wide, we do partner with a lot more of the peace than just what we do in missions. So yeah. Yes. Oh, okay, good. That's why I like having other people talk, because they just bring different perspectives, and and they've been at it a lot longer than me. Yes.
When you send this group out, the church is responsible for seeing that they go and come back. So apart from trusting God and praying, are there any security measures to be sure that you do in preparation for that?
I went to a security planning meeting through Saddleback, where they brought in some people who actually run security for travel into some countries. We don't go to any high-risk security countries, but it did give us some ideas of where we form a team here. We have a person here to contact. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, just what the security measures of kind of putting in place a kind of a peace that as a church we will take a peace group out of the country and they will come back.
Yeah. That's what we have a person here, and which really worked at this last trip, because this last trip, the flights were delayed. We went to Africa, and we had there was a couple of things that happened, but one was the flights that we were on all canceled, and so we had to divert people in through like Ethiopia and other countries, and then come into Abidjan. But in all of this, what I had was a person here too that I contacted and said, hey, we're changing our plans. So she would know where we all were at any given point in case anything happened. And then she would watch news and she would watch different things too to make sure that there wasn't anything going on where we were. Then one of our members lost her passport. And so, yeah, it's not a good thing to lose your passport out of the country, especially on a weekend, because the embassies are not open on the weekend. So, but I was in communication. It was actually Pastor Amy. So I was in communication with Pastor Amy almost every hour, telling her what was happening, where we were doing, where she was, because when she tried to leave the airport, she was actually arrested, which was scary. I had my passport, but there's nothing I could do. It was like to vouch for her. I mean, even so, she was taken into a detaining area for probably about maybe 14 hours. So I was in constant communication with her because they did leave her phone so she could communicate with me. And she, I mean, it was just in a little room that she had to sit in and spend the night in. But it's scary when you're by yourself. And so I kept texting her, I'm here, I haven't left the airport. I slept in the airport because I didn't want to leave her alone. And then at 2 o'clock in the morning, they told me I couldn't stay in the airport, that I had to at least go to baggage claim. So anyway, the whole thing was a mess. There was a hotel right at the airport that I walked across the street to, kind of stayed there, took a shower, came back. But I was texting her the whole time. I'm 3 feet away, I'm da-da-da-da. And so it was a little nerve-wracking. But yes, securities were in place that if we needed to, she increased the limit on my charge card so I could get us both tickets back. So if anything happened, I mean, we do have a lot of security here that we are in constant communication with. You hope you never need to use it. But yeah, and Pastor Ryan, one of his trips, he got diverted to some country that he didn't have a visa to get in there, so he didn't have a visa to get out. But it wasn't his fault that he went there because the plane was diverted there. So that was some issues that we had to take care of too. But we always have somebody here that we can contact that can take care of what we need here. Pastor Amy went through the security training. We both went through it. So she had numbers of people she could call if she needed to for us. And then we also have a travel insurance policy, yeah. So that we can also have the number, we have the number of the call. So, and I did call them as well when this lady lost her passport, so.
The church takes that out? Who takes out the travel insurance?
We have a blanket travel insurance policy for the church, for all of us, and then we also have individual plans that come out of the funding. So, yeah, I forgot about those, thank you. Also, one other thing, everybody that goes on a mission trip is background checked. Whether it's a regional or global, they're background checked. You have to be background checked to go on a trip. Any other questions or comments?
Can you explain briefly why?
Why? The big reason is most of the things that we do are with children. And so we have, anybody that works with children at our church has to have a background check. All staff is background checked. And so when we go into other churches regionally and we know we're going to be dealing with children, we want everybody background checked. And out of the country, it's just to make sure that when they go out of the country, they can get back in the country. Thank you for your comments, and I really appreciate your insight. Hey, anything else? Thank you all for sticking with me. Thank you. Oh, yes?
Yeah, so yesterday we had a class on assimilation, and during that class on assimilation.
Yes, I was in that.
That even people who have not yet become members can be allowed to join or to frontier the service. I'd like to give service
To be on a service.
to be on a service team. Can they be allowed to go out formation, out of the country formation, if somebody frontiers and is not yet a member?
I'm sorry.
If they're not a member, can they become a member?
Yeah, we don't require, yes, he was saying to be on some of our teams or to be a leader. in a service team, they have to be a member. To be a leader of the mission trips, yes, they have to be members. To go on the mission trip, no. We have people from outside the community that find out that we're going on a mission trip that we're partners with. They've come and gone on our mission trips with us.
So you can allow non-member to go with you?
Yes, we can allow non-members to go. And non-church people, I mean, people that go to another church have come on our mission trips. So, yeah. They just have to be background checked by us. What, Juan?
I would say that as you partner with more churches, you guys are so
Yes.
involved in the community and other
Yeah.
churches that other churches are like, hey, we can't go on a mission trip, but can they?
Right. And we've invited other church people to go, so, yeah. Okay, thank you guys so much.